Welcome, Wargamers. Join your hosts, Bonko and Monty, two Canadian wargaming enthusiasts, as we explore all aspects of tabletop wargaming. We roll dice, talk tactics, share hobby hacks, and explore new tabletop systems, all on the Trident Wargaming Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is going to be our first episode ever about Warhammer 40k. This is opening Salvo. I'm joined with Arthur from Charging from Deepstrike. What's happening, Arthur?
Thank you, Bill. You know, just painting and playing a lot of Warhammer.
That's the dream. That's what it's all about.
Isn't it? I'd like to say rolling dice, painting models, and trying to win games.
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill. You've been playing Warhammer for a long time, right?
It has been a long time, yeah.
How did you get started in Warhammer?
It started a long time ago. I'd have to say around grade 5, 6. Ended up just kind of meeting up with some friends there from schools on the way home. Stopped into a store and they were playing Man of War at the time, pre like Necromunda, and then found out that they ended up playing Warhammer as well, and this was second edition when it was
so this is like in the 90s kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. So I've been playing for a long time.
That's one of my favorite questions to ask people, you know, whenever you talk hobby.
Yeah.
Because it's really interesting to watch like the different ways that we were all introduced to it. A lot of times it was, you know, you're walking by the mall and you're like, hey, what's that? Or for some people it was the video game, the Dawn of War series or everything, right?
Yeah.
And the other question, you know, that's really interesting is how we always get brought back into it.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. It's just, it's a good hobby. It's really been a mainstay. Like for myself, I've been going 25 years strong, so it's been a ride.
Kind of always been there. One of the things that I started on with Charging from Deepstrike as a blog is interviewing, you know, some prolific community members and players. So I tried to pick out like community leaders or people that are doing really cool stuff. And I think the first question I always ask them is, you know, how did you get into the hobby? And it's always been super unique, or the draw of like what brings you into it. Some people, they love it for the gaming. Some people love it for the painting. Some people love it just to shoot the shit, have some beers, play some beer hammer, right?
Yeah.
It's always interesting.
Oh, no doubt.
So shout out to Charging from Deepstrike. If you want to go to chargingfromdeepstrike.ca, you can check out my blog. And on there you'll find some interviews. I also have some text-based battle reports. I know a lot of people like to watch videos, but there's people who prefer to read, and that's what that's all about. That's always cool to check out.
Yeah, we'll be having the links in the description as well, so you can click right on there, make it easy peasy for everybody. So I guess kicking into the episode, what have you been up to lately, I guess hobby wise? You've been working on any current projects?
Oh man,
stuff.
So if you're following 40k right now, you have to know that Eldar are on the horizon. And for anyone that's played, you know, Warhammer for any period of time, Eldar either go in two different positions. They're either like apex predators, or they're like absolute piles of dog crap. And you know, anyone that's played a bit of Warhammer back in like 7th edition played them when they were apex predators, and that's when I first fell in love with our pointy-eared overlords. But throughout 8th, because they were an early codex, and you know, this first half of 9th, they've been struggling. They don't have the typical things that make, you know, a good army for 9th, like resilient combat units, ability to contest points. Their shooting doesn't have the AP that everyone had after Marines 2.0 in 8th. So they've been just really struggling. But they're coming out new, and they've got new models. Some of the rules previews are coming out. So I've been painting Eldar like a madman. And I started off and I was wondering, like, what craft world do I want to do? Do I want to go one of the original 6? Continue off with the Sam Hine, do some Beal Tan, you know. I ended up deciding to go with like a custom color to try to really expand my painting palette. Because the last army I did was a black non-metal metallic Sisters of Battle armor, which is fun, but you're not painting in any color. So I tried to challenge myself to paint something that's just colorful, blinding and sleek like Eldar would be. So I've painted up so much Eldar, and I've got so much more to go. I'm just super excited. I got some Wraith Guards done. I got some Wave Serpents,
Yeah.
some Guardians, like the whole works.
Well, if you have the pleasure of watching this on YouTube, there will be pictures you can watch as we're talking about this. Also, we'll have links to Arthur's Instagram for the Charging from Deepstrike, where all the pictures have been popping up. I know I've been following them on there. Watching the Eldar just get punched out, I was like, whoa. So you've been cranking out a lot.
And I've also been trying some new techniques, right? Like, this is the first time I've really tried to blend with a brush instead of an airbrush on those Warlock and Witch power swords.
Oh, yeah.
Or even on the Wraithguard axes.
Yeah.
I tried to kind of push myself.
Them coming out nice,
gems as well. Thank you very much. A lot of that comes from those old Warhammer TV videos or just YouTube tutorials, right? One of my favorites is, I think it's Apathetic Fish. He's got such great videos. There are so many great YouTubers out there that can show you how to paint tutorials.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. It's the nice thing about the social age is you're not trying to emulate stuff that you've been reading in a White Dwarf magazine, being that 14-year-old kid. And if you are that 14-year-old kid, you can YouTube it and watch some of the world's best show you videos, right? It's quite an interesting time now.
That kind of brings me back. Back in the day, back probably in your day, there was models that were not quite released yet. So back then, Eldar, if you were playing Eldar, you used Falcons. Wave Serpents didn't even have a model yet.
No.
And there was a White Dwarf that came out that showed you how to papercraft an upgrade to turn your Falcon into a Wave Serpent.
Oh, man.
Can you imagine, 3D printing doesn't exist, there's no Chinese knockoffs, there's none of that. No. It's just, if you want this cool model, you can papercraft it.
Yeah.
How wild is that?
It's right up there with the deodorant stick, javelin, speeder. Right?
I mean, they kind of look like a deodorant stick. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so it's just wild, man. Just wild. No, that's awesome. It's good to be pumping in progress. It's nice to see projects come along and move to that final endpoint where you have the full army done. It's been like that with myself doing some Titanicus lately. Just airbrushing a lot of panels. I decided to actually be a dirty bastard and cheat. I bought a Liquid-X paint pen.
Paint marker. You tried out that new paint pen.
Yeah. It's insane. It goes on so nice. It's a one coat. It's nice and smooth.
Now these paint pens, were they designed for models?
No, I think they're more just a generic art paint pen.
And someone out there is like, you know what this is going to work for? Painting trim.
Yeah. Well, there's been guys, I had to go grab it here. There's been guys that have been using it regular Sharpies on big models on Titan trim and whatnot. And color wise, it's pretty much an identical match to the Vallejo metal color, the gold.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Those are super nice then.
And yeah, it's just, I'm able to do a full Warlord in 20 minutes. All the trim panels separate, hit it real quick, and then I glue everything together and proceed. But it's been really helpful. Crank out trim, you can spend hours upon hours painting it. Anyone who plays 40k, think a walking version of a Helldrake.
Oh,
okay,
my God.
There's a lot of trim. There's a lot of trim. So
painting Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah.
Actually, I got to give you credit because I've seen you try a couple different things over the years of pushing your hobby. I saw you try to do a marble effect. I think you grabbed some bounce dryer sheets for that.
Yeah, I did actually. I just finished doing some of that today too.
What's the secret behind that? So you paint some of it black first, you throw some dryer sheets on it, then you throw some white down, and it creates a marble effect, or is it the other way around?
No, it's pretty much exactly that. I start off with black. Just your regular primer color, and what you do is you place the bounce dryer sheet. I like to use used ones that have already gone through the wash. They're a little easier to kind of stretch out. But I ended up just putting a piece, a panel or whatever the case is, in the middle, and I start twisting it to tighten it up. And there's a certain point you can keep twisting it where it just starts to stretch out enough where you get some really good marbling in the paint. And then I'll take a weak gray, kind of airbrush over top, let it dry, and then I'll hit it in certain spots really heavy with white, let it dry, pull it off, and it does give that webbing marble effect that it's really fun to play with. Like, there's lots of colors you can use. It's just, I started with black, but I've seen guys use green and creams and all sorts of colors. It's quite nice, actually.
Well, you know, I have to figure something out for those new Shroud Runner bikes. Because when you look at the GW picture, they got some camo in them, right?
Yeah.
And either I'm going to use a lot of tape and masking, or maybe we could do a marble effect, and that might be the way to go.
Yeah,
I'll have to get some
super
bounce
quick.
sheets.
Yeah, it's super quick. So crank out some laundry and just grab the bounce sheets once you're done. And honestly, that's what I do. I bug the wife, hey, save those for me. I have a little Ziploc bag full of them.
And when you're done that, next time you have a fire, you can use them as fire starter.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, it's been good cranking out that stuff.
So you've been painting Titanicus. You're doing lots of BattleTech, but you're thinking about getting into 9th Warhammer.
I am.
Right?
I am. I feel it's time. There's a few of us that have been playing. The state of 30k, while fun, is a little stale. And boo hiss, get it out. But it's true. I'm starting to miss some of the layers of like complexity and the tactics that comes with 40k, and it does definitely itch that competitive playing urge. It's nice to really kind of flex your brain muscles and play hard. And the nice thing about Ninth that I've found is everybody has that ability to play hard. Like, every codex has something in it, right?
Especially the newer 9th edition codexes. And you know what? What they did with the 8th edition to 9th edition, if you're thinking about getting into Warhammer, now is like the best time. Because they're really revamping all the things that, from a design standpoint, just were kind of toxic to the game. So, for example, like rolling against 3-up invols. Before, if you could get a 3-up invol, like when that big Imperial Knight came out, it had a 3-up invol, and like they've ended up nerfing that. And there's the all unit entry that gets it. They were just over the top bonkers, and for the most part, they're gone from the game. Games Workshop made a design decision and said, you know what, we think that this is not a good mechanic. We're gonna get rid of it. And they're taking a lot of mechanics like that, like for example, advancing and charging. As a rule, has been slimmed down. Now, armies that used to be able to have 2 or 3 ways to do it might not even have one. Or if you do have it, it's going to be command phase specific, so you can't, and like the blog is named after, charge from Deepstrike with an advance and a charge or some stuff like that. So it's such a great time to get into 9th edition Warhammer.
What I've always kind of liked is the amount of support that the rules and just the game itself has been getting. And don't get me wrong, like you'll pay for the support, but I feel like the support's never been better than it is right now, and it's nice to see that, because I like the constant, I guess, evolving nature of the game, and especially with this new season with these secondaries and stuff. From what I've gathered, it'll be kind of an evolving thing every 6 months or so, that things will change and new secondaries come out, and it's another season for competitive play.
Games Workshop has promised a lot of things in the past, and they always promise, like, we're going to do big updates spring and fall, and then it gets pushed off. So I hope that they stick with that. This new chapter approved. They took all the missions that they designed with these tournament organizers and these big major tournaments in the States, and they approved upon them from the last time. And it looks like what they tried to do was make your win conditions have more agency. So, like, for example, I'm playing a double elimination tournament. We'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But mission 12 is called Tear Down Their Icons. And what you can do, as soon as you're over half in your opponent's territory, you can do an action to drop a bomb. And there's actually incentive for troops or units with OBSEC to do it. So they want you to play troops. Troops are actually good to do stuff rather than just your mandatory 3 to fill out your battalion.
Yeah.
And if these bombs still exist at the end of the game, they detonate and you can score extra primary points. But there's an interactive action on the flip side, as if you can get onto your opponent's bomb, they can, defuse it. But again, there's an incentive for troops and for OBSEC to do it. So they're really trying to reinforce, like, bring more troops, bring OBSEC, those are things you want. And they're actually giving some incentive to go second now too, because if you go second, you might be able to zip over, defuse your opponent's bombs, and plant your own. So there's a bit more strategy back, like in some of the previous editions, where it's not just go first, leaf blower your turn off. Now you kind of think about it like, fuck, maybe going second is what I want to do. Not that you have a choice, but like it might be, you can play tactically depending on if you're going first or second, which is just a great thing to have.
No doubt, yeah, that sounds awesome.
And it's not just this one mission that has these things. There are other missions that really reinforce. Like there's another one. I can't remember exactly. Abandoned Sanctuary is what it's called. And there's you score. It's an additional primary, so you score points at the end of every turn for control in the center, or killing a unit that was on the center. And at the end of the battle, whoever controls the center scores an extra 5 points. So like, well, you want to go first to be able to kind of alpha strike your opponent. You also want to go second to have the last point, to be able to get on this point.
Yeah. Last ditch for scoring.
That's exactly it. Goonhammer had done some publishing of like the go first win rate, go second win rate. And I think it ended up being like 57% go first win rate. And they had some more data to support that. The higher skill the game was, the more likely going first was. Which was really interesting because when Games Workshop published their own data, they said it was an even 50-50 split, so I'm kind of curious what the split actually is. But it looks like they're really reinforcing they want it to be balanced. You can win going first, you can win going second, you can win either or, just play the tactics to the mission.
That's always nice, though. Especially, coming from a few different games, Alpha Strike usually is, the really big deciding factor. And it can definitely kind of lead to a little bit of the case of feels bad, but knowing that there's just a lot of I guess chance to be able to score and really play to the mission and not just trying to wipe each other out is always nice to hear.
Well, and again, to complement that, for anyone who's played older Warhammer, anytime you go to a tournament, the worst feeling is when you're on moon-based Clasius and there's no, terrain that blocks line of sight.
Mm-hmm.
But the new terrain rules for 9th kind of go back to the old, like, 3rd edition terrain rules. So there's, if you have a rune that's over 5 inches, and you're standing behind it but not in it, it's considered to be obscuring, and it completely blocks line of sight. So whether or not there's a window that someone could tag you with a laser pointer, because you're behind it, they pretend that you can't be seen at all. So there's so much more LOS blocking terrain than there's ever been. So again, unless you're playing on Crater City, there's always the chance that you're not going to get shot off first turn.
That is nice. I do remember the first couple games of 9th, and yeah, just looking at all the different terrain rules, I was just like, whoa, like, gonna need some flashcards or some business card size stuff with all the rules just laying on the actual terrain pieces, because there was a lot to take in the beginning.
But don't get too scared of it, because it kind of boils down to like whether or not you're a ruin, or if you're like a crater or a forest, because that's a different type of terrain. Pretty much the important ones are dense and obscuring, and if you're not one, you're the other, or you're nothing. But then there's the odd weird ones, like if you're a barricade, which they've made cool rules for, to be honest. Barricades give some of the best terrain in the game. That this hard cover and defense line, they're super awesome. Yeah, the rule set for 9th is fantastic.
I know it's definitely luring me back in, so hoping to start, rolling some 9th edition dice and get back into the swing of things and check it out. I know locally, Edmonton here, it's been a very successful like Warhammer city for gaming in general. There's a lot of yeah, that too. But yeah, there's been a lot of talk, in the last few years of the gaming scene is pretty big. There's a few different systems that really, like to vie for attention, but the biggest one has always been 40k, and I know that's been quite a big part, like, for yourself as well. You're one of, for people who may or may not know Arthur, he's one of the leading, like, driving forces, I'd say, within, like, the local, that's been around for quite a decent amount of time. So it's just, yeah.
I started the original Edmonton Warhammer League, I think, in 2014. I was trying to play pickup games. There wasn't a lot of organization for like newer players at the time.
Mm.
And at the same time, I was also playing like leagues through Edmonton Sport and Social Club for like dodgeball and basketball and stuff like that. So I was like, hey, what if we do that, but with Warhammer? And it was wildly successful, right? I ran multiple seasons. I passed the hat on to others. They ran multiple seasons, and it's kind of come full circle back to me. So we got two things going on right now that are super exciting. The first is a double elimination league style tournament. It's called Garage Hammer 22. It's this spin-off of something I did in a different town when I was up in Cold Lake for a year. And one of the things I've kind of griped about playing tournaments in Warhammer before in the past is that as soon as you lose one game, you can be out. And part of that's due to strength of schedule, right? No one wants to spend 3 days playing Warhammer unless they're at the LVO, which is necessary, I guess. We only have a weekend. But this whole double elimination tournament is really that. Like you can lose one game and you can still come back through the losers bracket and win it all. So that's super, super exciting. And as soon as we're done, as soon as Garage Hammer 22 wraps up, we're going to kick off the very first EWL 22, Season 1. So it's kind of like a new beginning for that. And it's a big thing because the last 2 years with COVID going around, you haven't been able to do that. So I'm very excited to bring that out.
That's true, yeah. It's been a little tough for some of the gaming, right? It's picking up, but it's still slow to go. Although the new season stuff, reading some of it has been pretty neat to see because I've been curious, right? Like if it might just line up with my intent of coming back and jumping in the ninth, if I could try and get in on the league. I think that's one of the best ways to get just to get games in and learn, because you're playing so many people and you're really getting a good exposure to a bunch of different codexes. So
yeah, absolutely. You're going to expand your horizons. You're going to meet new people. Maybe you'll play at new stores. Maybe you'll find a new best friend, right? And like you said, you'll play against a range of armies. So you're not just going to play against your buddy Space Marines all the time.
yeah,
Maybe you'll play against Orks and Eldar. In my so I'm in round 2 of Garage Hammer. We just finished up round 1. I managed to win my first game. And I played against the new Tau Codex. So that was really cool because I don't have a lot of friends that play Tau anymore.
yep.
And round 2, I'm going up against Orks with Gazgul Thraka, and I don't have a lot of friends that play Orks, right? Like, my friends play a lot of other stuff. So I'm playing against 2 people who I've never played against before, which is awesome, against 2 armies, which I don't have a lot of chance to play against. So it's exactly what you said, the chance to get out, meet new people, play more games.
No, that's always good. Always getting to interact with new players and armies is a win for sure. I know that double elimination league sounded pretty neat when I was first looking at it. I was like, oh man, I wish I knew how to play again.
Yeah, totally. It's semi-comp in nature, right? And that's kind of what we told everyone. Like, play to win, but like play with intent, right? Like if someone makes a mistake, if it's not the end of the world, let them take it back. This isn't the LVO top tables. We're not playing it on stream.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Like you said, there's always so much going on in Edmonton. It's nice to be able to meet new people and other stuff going on. That's not the only things that are going on. There's also that Golden Grot over at Kingsway, the Kingsway Games Workshop. They're doing their once annual painting competition.
Yeah, that's true.
Are you going to drop anything off?
I don't know. I've done it the last. What was it? I did it last year, and then I did it pre-COVID. Pre-COVID was pretty legit. I ended up getting in the open category. I ended up getting first with Lehman Russ. And then last year I just fell short a little bit in some of those other categories. So there's a nice like array of painters though that came out of the woodwork this time.
I mean, some of the guys that work at GW were good, and some of the other people in town, like Stephen Lind is one of our Edmonton boys, and he's won the Renaissance Man Award at the LVO, I think, twice. This last year, he came in second for painting at the LVO, so it's hard to compete with some of these guys.
No doubt.
But I think this year, for the Golden Grot, they have like best small model, best large model for 40k, and I think they're doing the same thing for Age of Sigmar. And then I think they have a couple more categories. But they want you to have your model there for a whole week. So you got to drop it off, kiss it goodbye, tuck it in, and you'll pick it up next week, hopefully with a trophy.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it was I remember they were talking about expanding it just for more exposure time for voting and stuff too.
I mean, why not? Yeah, totally. I would love to do, and I don't know how to implement this, attach with one of the leagues, like an armies on parade for the league day. Because with the league, sometimes we get, like, in the past, up to 40 people in it.
It's true.
And some of these people are cool at painting, so it'd be cool if we could do something like that.
Oh, no doubt. That would be actually a lot of fun to check out, just to see who would come out of the woodwork to actually throw down some models.
Totally. That's not the only thing that's going on. Alberta's a busy place too. There's a couple tournaments out in Calgary. One's a major. They've advertised that. If you like playing big Warhammer, majors are important if you're trying to collect those all important ITC points, because there's a modifier depending on how many players you have. So you need to win the majors and the super majors to really get on that scoreboard. They got a 2-day players pack over at Ogre's Den, and I was looking at their players pack, and it is the best players pack I've ever seen. Like, it's the most thorough. They give exact details on what's acceptable for, like, paint and for proxies and for terrain. And I've never seen a players pack as well done as that one. So if you want, like, a really good tournament experience, I would look into that. It's called Fool's Errand Tournament.
Nice.
There's also, like, I think a 5-man team tournament also going on sometime in the future, if that's more your jam.
Oh, that's killer. Well, it's nice to know that there are a lot of opportunities for different events, just locally and abroad, right? It's good when the system has some heat behind it,
So when is the Trident Wargaming tournament coming back?
Oh, it's...
Come on, open system, we could BattleTech, Warhammer, everything you guys do.
It's, there are plans to try and do that in the future. I'm slowly chipping away at a couple different systems. I'm planning on actually end of March to host a Titanicus event at Red Claw.
Hey, right on.
Yeah, try and start kind of growing that system up a bit, and from there start kind of trying to dabble and keep some of the player bases live, right? Probably get something for Heresy shaken up in a bit, and then obviously with jumping into 9th, it's only a matter of time. I'm just kind of waiting on just a few little odds and ends to wrap up and for COVID to kind of fuck off, and I think it'll be a good time. Just waiting for a few things.
Totally.
So, but when it does come down to that, oh, don't worry, we'll definitely be talking to get some things lined up.
Now, I know you want to play Warhammer. What army? When you get into 9th? Because it's not if, it's when. What are you playing?
I thought I knew a little while ago, but I've recently signed up for a paint course. Been kind of watching some videos, experimenting and learning, and I was gonna start with my Orks just to kind of learn the game and paint them because they're all built and primed. And then I was like, well, Druhkari would be nice. I have a big army new on spruce sitting there, but to be honest, I think I'm gonna go back home to some power armor. Finish off my Space Marines because my Chaos Marines are pretty much done. Finish off my Space Marines. I'm rocking the Executioner chapter.
Okay.
Yeah, I run them out of the Imperial Fist book, which they're not even a part of, which is upsetting, but that's okay for now.
You're playing Chaos Space Marines as regular Marines.
No, I Executioner Marines. These are Primaris, full bore Primaris Marines. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see. They're a third founding successor chapter of the Imperial Fists.
Yeah. So anybody worth their salt for some sweet heresy action knows that they followed Fafnir Ran, created a new chapter, became a big thing, and then they were a Forge World army for the Beta Wars.
Oh, they rebelled during the Beta Wars, right?
Yeah,
they joined the secessionists by Luft Huron or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, this is taking me back. This was a big deal.
It was huge, yeah. And they teamed up with Mantis Warriors, and I want to say, I want to say the Star Phantoms. There wasn't a whole lot of Trader Marines, but there was a few that kind of turned. Same with Astral Claws, right? And then they ended up getting brought back to the light and had to go on a kind of penance crusade type deal, but yeah, they're back in the fold, although they just don't exist in the 9th edition codex or in the supplement anymore.
Right. They had to do 100 years contrition and survive on a crusade. And their planets, their twin chapter worlds, were given over to the salamanders to overcome. Just looking up their fluff here. These are really cool
Yeah.
stuff. You know, some of the old history of like the Badab Wars or the War for Armageddon, I feel like Games Workshop's kind of lost out on because these were big events. I feel like, you know, Vigilus Ablaze isn't nearly as cool as this, with the exception of Cadia Falling. That was badass.
That was badass. You know, Calgar had way too much plot armor, but you know, it is what it is.
They should have just killed him. Gulliman's back, right?
It would have been
You don't need
cool.
Calgar
It would have
and
been
Gulliman,
cool.
Yeah.
You could have brought a new dude, but who knows? That's kind of sacrilege to some of the Smurf players out there. So, but yeah, Beta War when that all came out, like that was just as we were starting to get into the heresy stuff, and then fast forward 9 years and we're here. So, but
Well, here's how it's gonna throw down. You got to finish off your Space Marines or whatever.
yeah,
And this new box set for the Eldar that just came out, it's called Eldritch Omens. And it's Eldar versus Space Marines, and they're fighting over this maiden world that the Chaos Space Marines have kind of invaded. So, let's get you into 40k. We'll play this out. We'll do a little campaign. It'll be awesome.
that I'd be down for because I've been appreciating Ninth for the simple fact that I can port over my heresy stuff and mix it in with my Black Legion Chaos Marines, and I can have my Iron Warrior troops running around, and it can all be Black Legion, like all these war bands just kind of jumbled together, and it's I like the freedom to do that using that compendium book that came out where 90% of my army ports over for use in the actual game. Now, it may not be the most point efficient or command point efficient because I know there's a thing you had to spend points to actually use some of this stuff.
Right, for your relics and stuff like that.
So, you know, it still gives you options though. If you have that one model, like you just never want to leave home without, be it that Leviathan or, you know, your Venator, you can use it. And that's what really kind of drew me into Chaos Marines would be legit because I can use everything. And Iron Warriors didn't change that much through the heresy, so there's no real issue there. And it's just even the new scale, it's not. It's less than
That
an eighth.
far off.
Yeah, it's less than an eighth.
Yeah.
So it's good. I definitely would be down to do that while I get those Primaris rolled out.
You know, I talked a lot about competitive Warhammer today, but I do firmly believe that the best Warhammer is when you're playing the stuff that you love. Like, regardless of whether or not it's point for point the most efficient shooting and killing you could have.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing, you know, and in my case, my pet models right now are an Eldar Seer Council. They are not good, but I love them. Right? So kind of playing the stuff you love, you know, maybe put a narrative spin on it or whatever. That's the best Warhammer. Have a couple beers. There you go.
Yep. Well, I can definitely.
And the rule
believe
set
that.
supports it. The rule set supports it.
And I think that's one of the biggest things is having a set that does actually support the ability to play more of a narrative background. Or again, every codex has potential to throw out some hurt. It's quite nice, especially like you said, the newest ones are pretty beefy. I've heard a lot of good things about it, and they've been moving.
And you know what?
Quick, I think.
One of the oldest codexes out there right now, the Tyranids Codex, they almost won the LVO.
Yeah, which is pretty sweet. Was that just straight pure codex, or was it like a soup of Gene Stealer or the Crusher stuff?
There was a couple different Tyranids lists that came in. One was that Crusher Stampede, and if you don't know what that is, there was a White Dwarf that came out that made the Tyranid monsters really good. They made them take less damage. They can shrug some wounds off. They have a better save. So that's been kind of pounding out. I don't remember if it was that or if it was Tyranids mixed with a little bit of Gene Stealers. But the Tyranids that are mixed with a little bit of Gene Stealers, it's not really the Gene Stealers that are pulling the weight. It's the Hive Guard and the actual Nid Codex stuff that was doing all the killing.
Nice. That is.
But
nice
I mean,
when
like
it's
if you're honest, Gene Stealers should be working with Tyranids, right? Like that's.
It's true.
I mean, the Tyranids will eventually eat and kill the Gene Stealers, but on Ascension Day, they'd work together.
I could definitely believe that. I could. It's going to be good. I am excited for Ninth and all the gaming that comes with it. The system we were playing the tail end of 8th, and we're getting into some Tale of Four Warlord stuff, learning the system together, playing. And I remember 9th dropped. We only played, I think, 3 games, and then that was it. I just got sucked back into some other systems, but yeah, there's a few guys who have the itch, that's for sure.
Well, there's lots of great places to do that. If you got the itch and you're around the Edmonton area, you can hit me up. I go by Oliver Zoe on socials, or you can hit me up on my blog or whatever, and I'll give you not only the rundown of how to play 9th, but some of the tactical depth behind it. And there's a million different places to play good Warhammer in Edmonton. There's, Red Claw, Industrial Park Games, there's Gamer's Den, there's Taps for Effect, there's that St. Albert Club, Saga, and they're the only spot in the city where you can get beer and wings and play Warhammer.
Yes, Scotty B is the man down
Scotty
there,
B.
and I have partaken at Saga many a time and never had a bad beer or a bad game. So if that doesn't convince you to go, nothing will.
No, the boneless wings.
Oh, the boneless, yeah, the pork bites, yeah.
That's what you go for. Never mind the Warhammer. It's the boneless wings.
Awesome. So good. So, with the way 9th is going, do you find that this new, this new era where there's a lot more feedback from playtesting and the consistency of chapter approved, tweaking points, a lot of FAQs, like Druhkari, they've had a ton of FAQs and they're still doing really well. I do find myself asking, like, was the book either like that good, or have people just kind of cracked this really nice code with the codex? I know Custodes are kind of being talked about, Tau's being talked about now, because obviously they're the latest and greatest, and I'm sure we'll all be talking about Eldar in a month's time. Just be like, it's just, I don't know, like, was it that bad, or?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there's a whole bunch of compounding factors. Yes, Dark Eldar were very good, and when they nerfed them originally, they took care of the bad builds, but they actually gave them a buff too, and from that buff spawned a new Dark Eldar Overlord, and I think it was dubbed as Thick City, but it was like the Pain Engines, the Talos, and the Chronos, and then they were top dog for a while.
I have heard of Thick City, yes.
I don't think that it would have been as big of a problem if the shipping problems due to COVID weren't as prevalent.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that eats Dark Eldar alive, those T3 and T5, T6 vehicles, T3 models, that's Tau and regular Eldar's bread and butter, because you're going to put the stuff that's really good into that, like your shirt cannons, your bright lances, and you'll eat it alive. But there was no counter for it, right? And so that kind of reigned unsupremed, because the things that would be brought back, normally in a month or two, to kind of fight at that, took 6 to 8. Like, I think on the original release schedule that was leaked, we should have already had World Leaders and Angron and had all the codexes out by now, but we don't.
That's true, yeah.
And Games Workshop did do a lot of things, like they released points changes early to try to tame stuff down. And the bigger offender, and actually they ended up winning the LVO, was AdMech, because their infantry were just compoundingly good with the amount of buffs and stratagems you could put on them.
Yeah.
But Games Workshop kind of reined that in too. And Sisters of Battle, they had some really high placings last fall, and come after the print cycle works out, because they got to be a few months ahead of schedule there. They ended up nerfing some of those Sisters units that were just overwhelmingly being chosen, or maybe too good for their cost. So I don't think that people are satisfied with how quick Games Workshop does it, just because with the print system and the Black Library system, and let's face it, Games Workshop's never going to give up Black Library. That's their publishing company. That's their bread and butter.
Yeah.
That's their IP, and that's what really Games Workshop is selling. It's just not fast enough for people's liking, but that's never going to change.
No, it's definitely impatience is a thing. I'm going to sound super, super old, but back in my day, it was, you were lucky if you got 2 or 3 codexes in a year. But
back then there was only 8 codexes.
Well, that's true too. But it's changed a lot for the better. I think like it's just the speed that stuff comes out now is it's never been as good, right? Like as it is now, and it's in a good spot. Just as me looking on the outside, right, or from outside in, it's just that's kind of how I see it. I just it's a little bit intimidating to jump back in after playing all these other systems for so long, and the problem is with ninth, my biggest struggle has been trying to identify what other people's armies do. And, unless you're playing them quite often, it's hard to keep track of what they do, not to mention codexes you've never played before. And I just got into a mindset of, just tell me what it does, because I'll just believe you. Because it's so whacked on some of the stuff.
Because there's so many things. It's not just knowing the data sheets anymore.
Yeah.
Because they've moved a lot of the datasheet abilities to stratagems, right? So if you're playing against someone else, you got to know their warlord traits, their relics, their stratagems, their datasheets, and whatever their chapter tactics are.
Yeah.
And their army-wide bonus, right? So now there's like 7 things you got to know, and sometimes those all compound to do crazy shit, like just crazy stuff, right? So that is something to that is definitely something that you have to kind of play games to get over that hump.
Yeah.
But on Reddit, I was reading this list of questions that someone asks whenever they go to a tournament. And this is a guy who plays maybe as much Warhammer as I do, right? Like, not as much as someone who's going to the LVO, but more than the average person. And they ask them, like, do you have any abilities to fight first or last? Do you have any abilities to advance and charge? What is your 2 core stratagems you want to use? These types of questions to try to get, like, the big things and prevent any gotcha moments, because whether you're playing in a tournament or not, trying to avoid those gotcha moments is going to make it a better gaming experience for everyone.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I don't like gotcha moments in any real game. I don't want to win on a technicality or, you made like a big mistake. I'd rather win on my like generalship and the way that I'm employing tactics. And yeah.
Totally. There is one thing I tell people at the start of the game, and I make a big deal out of it. I say, this character has a fight last effect. And then I tell them straight out, I'm not going to remind you if you walk into this character, because as soon as you remind people, oh, this person fights last, they're always like, oh, I'm just not going to go near them then.
Yeah.
And like I tell them like 5 or 6 times so they don't forget. And then half the time they forget anyways, and they'll be like, just so you know, they have fight last. But there's a couple things where, I'm kind of wondering, like, is that a gotcha moment if you specifically tell someone, listen, this, don't fuck with it, and then they forget? Because, you don't want them to forget, but every time you remind them, they're like, oh yeah, I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah, well, I think at a certain point, no, there's no gotcha moments with that. It's you're learning, and to be honest, I kind of prefer to learn that way, is learning those hard lessons, because they usually only happen once. And you're like, oh,
yeah, it'll happen once, you'll lose a game because of it.
Yeah. I ain't doing that again. I'm going to remember that, right? Like, it's, we did the similar kind of training stuff when it came to, prep for our LVO games and stuff. It's like, hey, we're going to play hard because that's how you're going to learn. And if you forget, you'll remember next time.
It was my buddy Dan that keyed me onto this, and he played a lot of Death Guard at the time. And this is one of those things, if you play against Death Guard, they have this one character who's got these 2 fight last effects that are just the best in the game. And he would always remind me, and then one day he's like, okay, I'm going to stop reminding you because you're on your own now. You've played enough games.
Yeah.
In that game, I still fucking walked into it. After that game, I've never walked into that character again.
Yeah. It's a good way to learn. It really is.
There is always a learning curve.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to jumping in for some 40k in the future. I think it'll be really, really good. Any plans after Eldar, or are you just gonna kind of run them for a while and crank out? Like, I know you were doing Sisters. You have anything else on the go in the horizon, or future projects you want to do?
Well, I've pretty much painted every Sisters model that exists. I think we're done with sisters now.
Yep.
And I want a competitive Eldar list. So we'll see what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple things I would like to. I've always kind of played around with. I'd love to have a Tau army. I like the suits. I like the Gundam style stuff.
Yeah.
I think they're neat. So that's always kind of considered that. And then, once upon a time, I was an Emperor's Children player. I had a whole Forge World suite. I never even played 30k. I wanted to get into it, but I just love the aesthetic.
I wanted you to get into it, man. I remember seeing pictures of that army. I was like, "Oh, dude, why aren't you playing?" Like,
I had all the 30k stuff.
yeah, you did.
I would love to do like an Emperor's Children-esque Space Marine army. I'm probably gonna call them loyalists, and maybe they'll call them Sons of the Phoenician, as Games Workshop did. But those purple Space Marines.
Yeah. Oh, that would be awesome.
So that's, when these new Primera sculpts are just so beautiful.
They are.
And Space Marines will never be bad. They might not be the apex predator because that's Eldar's rightful place.
Whoa.
But they'll always be good. There'll always be viable Space Marines.
Yeah. No. Space Marines power armor always has a special place. I think with a lot of players, it's so iconic. It's kind of an interesting way to go, right? I know some guys like their firstborn, some guys like Primaris, some guys don't care, they'll run a mix. I like different eras of Marines for different reasons, right? Like Executioners are purely Primaris. Just I wanted all something nice, new, and a little bit of a step away from the heresy stuff where I still have the opportunity to port over my Space Wolves from Heresy, so I could play them as just all Firstborn, which has pros and cons, right? But I think it's fluffy for them, so that might be fun to experiment with as well.
Totally.
But yeah, Marines are fun. They're definitely cool. I need a Chaos Codex to come out though, so I can stop seeing your flame up the Chaos Marines all the time with how many wounds spill over from the new Eldar weapons.
You know what? It is actually time. I forgot. I gotta set the clock back. Every week I gotta make a new meme about how Chaos Marines don't have 2 wounds. I've made some pretty good memes. Here are some things that have 2 wounds that Chaos doesn't. Drones have 2 wounds. Argo Flagellants have 2 wounds.
Yep.
Jet bikes have 2 wounds. Fucking servitors probably have more wounds than a Chaos Space Marine.
Oh god, I don't doubt it. I'm sure you're pretty bang on with it, Lukash. I'm sorry I reminded him.
Set the clock back. Yeah. I don't know why they've done Chaos so dirty. With that
there was a point in time, 8th edition, where like Chaos were just crushing it. I remember early on, like Chaos were so good, and then something happened. And that was it. Well, I know like a new Marine Codex did drop, but just, I don't know what happened. It just, the momentum stopped,
I think that maybe they didn't get the same amount of love out of Psychic Awakening that some of the other stuff got. But they did get some stuff, right? Like, they got their Possessed Bombs, and they were doing some other jank.
That is true.
I think there was a way that people were doing some 3-up invols on something, and I think there was another thing where some guys could shoot twice due to being, Emperor's Children or something like that.
I do remember playing a little bit of the Psychic Awakening with my Iron Warriors and getting a couple cool little upgrades to play around with. It made it feel like a fun army to play, at the very least, which is always the main concern, right? You want to have fun rolling dice, so it's just I'd like to see them get some more love and start competing and really being able to go toe to toe with some of these other armies. So. And
from the rumors that are coming out, Chaos Space Marines is supposed to be pretty good. And at the tail end of this year, we're supposed to be looking at a new Chaos Primark.
I have loosely read some stuff. Like I did see an Angron mention. I just saw like another Primark. I was like,
Well, Angron has been teased forever, and there was a leak list that got published a few months ago now, and that leak list has been bang on for everything. And well, Games Workshop will address some other leaks. There's been radio silence on this one. So I would say that there is going to be a World Leaders Dex, and there is going to be, Angron coming out. But the thing I'm the most surprised about is that they never did Fulgrim.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I was hoping they were going to keep kind of pushing and get the remaining Primarchs done, like the trader ones anyways. And, you always kind of hold out hope that they're going to bring out another Loyalist one.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting when we talk about Chaos that we have Nurgle and we have their Primarch, right? Mortarion.
Yeah.
We have Tzeentch and we got their Primarch Magnus. So if we're thinking about Khorne, it's got to be World Eaters and Angron, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's got to come. There's no one else that embodies a Chaos God of Khorne more than Angron. I don't think.
No, it's true.
And, also Fulgrim. So those are coming. They're definitely going to see some love. This was supposed to be advertised as the Year of Chaos.
It would be cool. I know at LVO they did preview Kabanda, so...
What do you think would be the next Loyalist Primarch?
Well, I'd love it to be Leman Russ. That'd be great. Do you
think it'd be all chaos fucked up with like part wolf and stuff?
I have a feeling he'd be probably pretty hardcore, like mutated to Wolfen. Just from roaming around in the eye. There's even like some fluff where they find his armor in a Temple of Khorne.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
I'm not sure if he took it off and like put Khorne armor on and started killing more stuff, or what the story is. There's a lot of fluff out there saying that he's still roaming around. You got Korax, who's like allegedly mutated to this weird bird demon thing, just killing traders, and the Khan, who
heard about that one too. Yeah,
the Khan got caught and kind of getting penetrated by Dark Eldar. That's the last I heard. Right, he got caught in the webway by Dark Eldar. That's the last I heard about him. And then
well, that explains why Dark Eldar have been so good lately.
Yeah, that's kind of like the main rumors that I heard. Like, it would be cool to see a Lorgar model come out, or even a wicked like beefy obliterator Perturabo kind of demon engine type model. Cool. But yeah, it's hard to say what they'll end up bringing out. It really is.
Well, what are we missing for Horus Heresy? Just the Emperor now?
Yep. Pretty much. Well, like, there's some smaller characters that are missing, but for the main run, yeah, it's the Emperor, which he'll eventually be coming out. They mention him in, I believe it's Book 8, or sorry, no, I think it is Book 8, where Custodes kind of army can use him as a warlord.
Did they give him rules?
Not yet, but that's the rumor that he will get rules, which is kind of a weird. It's kind of a sour point for me, because like, how can you put stats on like the Emperor?
It's like putting stats on God, right? It's kind of a sin.
Well, it is. It's weird because, okay, so what is he going to be, like a level 5 Psyker? The highest.
Well, they
4,
did,
right? It's just.
I think the only point of comparison you can really have is when you look at the old Warhammer Fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
When they had like Karl Franz Ascended or Nagash, right? The end time stuff.
Yeah.
And they started putting like God level stats on stuff. And there was the elf one too. I don't remember what happened there, but I think that's kind of what they'll have to look like for the Emperor, right? And they'll obviously do Horus Ascended, yeah.
I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, he killed Sanguinus and he messed up the Emperor, so he's got to be pretty tough.
Yeah. It is true. Yeah, it is true. I guess it'd be interesting to see how it all kind of breaks down. It'll be interesting for sure, like what happens with Heresy. There's talk about new box sets and everything else, but it's just, I don't know. I gotta keep playing games and rolling dice, and I don't want to hold my breath for that. It could be a year before that shit comes out. So
sure, we could be back to the old world before that comes out.
Yeah, for real, right? So I am looking forward to it, though. The Executioner's being pretty much built, minus a couple vehicles. It's just airbrushing and painting, and they've been getting painted pretty quick when I was actually like concentrating on them, so shouldn't take long to get them wrapped up. And then after I'm done that painting course, hopefully maybe jump into Druhkari.
There you go.
So
love to see it. Get some 40k in.
I'm definitely down. Did you have any other shout outs or anything you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to charging from deepstrike.ca. Check out the blog. We do battle reports. We do some interviews. We're going to be even interviewing this podcast here coming up. We should be publishing that soon. We've done some other prolific stuff, like, a local 40k guy who's also a published author. So kind of navigating that. Check out Garage Hammer 22. You'll see that link on the blog. And look forward to the return of the Edmonton Warhammer League. And this summer, the Edmonton Warhammer League Open. I don't know what that looks like, but I know what's going to happen.
I'm sure it'll be awesome. I'm sure it will. So, yeah, excellent. Make sure you guys, check the description. We'll have all the links in there, so you're able to connect with Arthur and follow along on the blog and Instagram. And just definitely enjoy the pictures that you see and some of the articles on the page. So, and Arthur, obviously, thank you a lot. Thank you so much for coming down and chatting 40k with us and letting us know how the current state is. I know I'm definitely excited to jump in. So,
it's the best time to get in ever. We're back to the way Warhammer should be, with Eldar on top. Everything is right in the world, and
my goodness,
that's honestly, in the past 5 years, if there was ever a time to recommend someone to get into Warhammer, it's now. It's the best it's ever been. Like, talking about 6th and 7th edition when they had Taudar or Psychic Death Stars, like, all that is gone. And while there are still things that are good, they're not oppressive like they were. So it's just honestly the best time to get in.
That's excellent. That's always good to hear. I know people always kind of get leery and they remember some of the old days, so it's nice to hear that everything's kind of new and fresh and ready to tantalize the tactics and painting and playing hard games. So look forward to it. Well,
absolutely.
And thank you everybody for listening, and we'll definitely be having more 40k talk as I start to jump into games. We'll have Arthur come back. We'll talk a little bit more. We can hear about the Garage Hammer 22, and this is just the opening salvo. It's been a long time coming, so I think you guys will like the 40k content as it comes out. And we will catch you next time.
All right, thanks for having me, Bill.
For sure, man.
Thanks for listening to everyone else.
Trident Wargaming. Build it, paint it, play it.